Today's video is sponsored by a good friend of the channel, Bootleg Greedo. Bunch of new commanders here: Jodah the Unifier versus Jared Carthalion, Dihada Binder of Wills, and Xur Eternal Schemer. That's not a good start. Luckily we've got a free mulligan. And of course get straight into... you know, if we get into a land there, it's actually not half bad. So against my better judgment, I'm going to keep that. We are on the draw. Well, everyone's on the draw in a game of Commander. Excellent. Drawing into a land on turn 1, so we're set up now for the first few turns. Get down a Temur land here. Temur Tricycle land. Chrome Mox from Jared is the first spell of the game. And throwing away a Lolth Spider Queen underneath that. 5 cards left in hand. Kazmina Enigma Sage, so they've obviously gone for some kind of Super Friends build here. Going for the +2, which is a Scry 1. Another land is excellent. We'll go for the Bayou and just get down another Tricycle land here. That does mean that we can play out the Joyra next turn, which is obviously a good creature to be casting legendary stuff into. Mana Vault from the Esper player. Dihada plays Jared's Hourglass Pendant. Holding up 4 mana over here, another plus on Kazmina. We draw into Kolvori, God of Kinship, drop a land, and I think we're just going for Joyra here. Enlightened Tutor for Xur at the end of the turn. So about to draw into whatever they tutor for. And it is Sol Ring that they aimed for with that. Getting into their black mana with Isolated Chapel, playing out the Sol Ring, and they do tap down the Mana Vault here. So they get down a Shark Typhoon, only 2 cards in hand at least. A Krenko Tin Street Kingpin from Dihada. We see Mox Amber has hit play over here. It will tap for Simic thanks to the Planeswalker. Speaking of which, that ticks down and makes a 4/4 Fractal. The World Tree, so continuing to drop lands is good. Yeah, drop the World Tree. I think we go for Kolvori, God of Kinship here. Then we can drop another Legendary and start swinging in with a 6/6 next turn. Not to mention the fact that we will cantrip here. Draw into Hour of Promise, so worst case scenario we can just do some ramping next turn. Not able to swing in over at the Planeswalker now thanks to the 4/4 Fractal, so yeah, I'll just hold back and not make an enemy out of anyone. I want us all to be concentrating on the Jared, to be honest. Xur Eternal Schemer, animating the Shark Typhoon. That is now a 6/6 with Death Touch, Hexproof and Lifelink. It should go straight in towards the Kazmina. And correctly, it does swing in towards the Planeswalker, so we'll see they've got 6 mana held up here, 3 cards in hand, and they are doing something. That is a comeuppance. So, I mean, especially thanks to the Death Touch, the Shark Typhoon is going to deal with itself. So yeah, we get rid of a Shark Typhoon there, which is really good, but also the 5 colour player over here has really made an enemy out of the Esper player, I imagine. Got 2 players down to 2 cards though. Krenko swinging in towards the Esper player. So going to get a couple of free Goblin tokens here. I think this has... yeah, it's just flying, no other keywords. So obviously the commander blocks there, no damage is dealt. Just managing to get some Goblin tokens on the go. Scry 1 on the Kazmina during the first main. And now we've got a Sarkhan the Unbroken to deal with as well. That will likely drop a 4/4 Dragon token. And that's exactly what they do. So much for swinging in towards the Planeswalkers. Hero's Downfall destroys a Planeswalker. As soon as you get a Planeswalker into play, you do get priority, so that was the first chance that our opponent had to get the Hero's Dawn, or the Hero's Downfall. So they still get the Dragon token, but losing the Sarkhan Unbroken. The 4/4 swings in to the Mardu player as revenge. They chump block with the Goblin token. So that does switch on the Kolvori again now. We will be able to get rid of Kazmina, assuming that they're not holding up Assassin's Trophy or something. Just 1 card in hand over here now. Alright, a land is not at all bad, so that means we can go for the Toski and the Sylvan Library this turn. And then if we get a land next turn, which we should be able to from the Sylvan Library, it will switch on the World Tree. Oh, actually, I always think this is 7 lands, it's only 6. So it's actually switched on now, so scratch that. Still going to play out the Toski here. And we do draw into another land to make next turn, that's excellent. To be honest, I'm not liking the fact that our opponents aren't necessarily concentrating on the 5 colour player over here. I mean, at least they're down to 1 card in hand. Deal with the Kasmina. I don't think we're going to be ganging up on the 5-colour player. I think people are going to be looking at us soon, so I'm actually going to just try and draw a card here. / control the Goblin army. Yeah, so they do chump with the Goblin token on Jodah, so we won't draw a card to Toski. We are going to deal with the Kasmina though. So drop the Sylvan Library, we will pass the turn here. Zer was going to play something there and then decided against it, noteworthy there's an Urborg in play. Yeah, just holding up 2, 4, 6 and 7 mana, so could be a Rift. Mardu player still struggling on 3 lands, but does play a Black Blade Reforged, which will be really good with the Krenko. Krenko, I assume, is swinging into the Esper player. Yeah, swinging in at the Esper player. That is a 3-power creature now, so can still block with Zer. They take the damage that time, strangely. Okay, and then the Esper player scoops. Welcome to Magic Online. You got to get at least 1 early scoop a game, haven't you? Liliana Dreadhorde General. We may well see a minus down here, although maybe not. I think a minus down is actually going to be worse for them here. Yeah, they make a zombie token instead and decide against swinging in. Okay, Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is not bad. Means we're not too scared of a board wipe now. We'll look at some more cards. We've got Piru, the Volatile, and Varagoth, Blood Sky Sire. Yeah, let's just take the 8 life here. We haven't taken any damage yet. Throw out the Scrubland. And I think we're okay to go for the Jodah here. So that will cantrip thanks to the Joyra Weatherlight Captain. Gets us into Chromatic Lantern, which might keep hold of just in case we lose the World Tree. Although it does put us ahead of mana. So everything gets bumped up there. We have a 10-10, a 7-7 and a 5-5 indestructible. Maybe just swing everything in at Liliana here. Or we can at least clear the way. Maybe we get rid of a couple of blockers and clear the way for the goblins to land some damage on Liliana. Problem is, yeah, I think we have to dedicate everything and risk losing the Joyra here. Because if they lose enough big creatures, then they're not as unhappy about ticking it down. And we really don't want them to tick down here, so yeah, we'll try and dissuade them as much as possible from ticking down and risk losing a Joyra in the process. It's annoying that we can't cast a legendary spell into Jodah here. Can't cast anything into Jodah, actually. So the zombie goes in the way of Khalvori. Could have gone for the Thassa there and made some stuff unblockable, but I don't think we would have had enough power and toughness there. Yeah, so 5 damage going on to the Liliana. They'll have 1 blocker left, so should be able to go wide on the Liliana, the Goblin player. And yeah, we do lose Joyra here. Oh, actually forgot to reorder the blockers there, so wish I'd got rid of the dragon. They'll draw a couple of cards thanks to a couple of their creatures dying. And we'll just activate Khalvori during an opponent's turn. We can pretend that we're holding up counter magic. Finally getting into that 4th land, and it is a bounce land unfortunately. See if they float mana in response. They do not, so only 2 mana available this turn. They could have equipped up the Black Blade Reforged onto Krenko and made a whole bunch of Goblin tokens there. Krenko still survives against the dragon though, so they should be swinging everything in at Liliana. Yeah, see, that's not the right way to attack there. They can risk losing a Goblin token, it doesn't really matter. Our opponent might be willing to lose a dragon token to their Krenko and want to keep the Liliana in play. And they do, see, so they're going to draw a card to the Liliana. At least they can't tick down here thanks to us, because it is a -4 for that. But they've been able to draw 3 cards from Liliana. That was never going to be something that could have been avoided. Liliana making a black zombie token, so might have to rely on Thassa next turn. Haven't seen them play their commander yet, strangely. And here we see Nico Bolas Dragon God. Ugh, that's not good. They're going to be able to tick that down with Liliana's ability, or just straight up destroy another creature, which could be on our Jodah. Each player sacks 2 creatures, yeah. So, what we do here is get rid of both of our green legendaries and keep Jodah in play for the somewhat Cascade, I think. And at the very least, we're setting up a Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. They sacrifice their zombie, of course, so drawing another card, staying at 4 in hand, and they have 3 mana available to them, playing out a Celestia Signet. So Lily's done some work for them here, and they just decide to tap out with 3 cards in hand. Oh, actually, forgot to activate this in response, didn't I? Oh well, luckily card draw isn't much of an issue for us in this game, apparently. Okay, drawing into a windfall here, which I'm not bothered about with Wheel of Fortune, so if we can get into a shuffle effect here, I will take it. No, so let's put that on top. We'll take the land and the Deadly Rollick this turn. Alright, so we'll go for the Varragoth here. Don't have haste, unfortunately, but Jodah is going to trigger for the first time. And the legendary non-land card is another creature. It is Nyambi, Esteemed Speaker. So we'll cast that one. And I'm not interested in bouncing our commander back to hand here. After that we can play Thassa, God of the Sea, which does count as a creature when we play it from hand, even though it won't be a creature when it enters. Unfortunately playing some small creatures here thanks to the board wipe. That gets us into Killian, which is a lifelink menace. Don't mind the lifelink when we've got Sylvan Library in play. That enters as a 6/6. This is a 6/5. And a 6/7 over here. Could have played out the Chromatic Lantern there, but I decided against it just in case, like I said, we see a big Ruinous Ultimatum at some point or something like that. Gonna let the Goblin player deal with Liliana. I want to deal big commander damage to this player before they do anything else too crazy. So we'll swing in 9 commander damage over at the 5 colour player. Krenko correctly, swinging in at the Liliana, finally deal with her. Not swinging in with any Goblin tokens. Why do they keep holding these back? They could have dealt 5 damage to this player here. Also, noteworthy that they're not equipping the Blackblade Reforged. Might want to cast something else this turn, maybe. No one's obviously dealt with the Krenko yet, so if it just goes to show if you make one mistake in a turn, it can affect the way the rest of the game plays out. They would still have had this equipped here. They would have had twice as many Goblins in play. Arcane Signet, not struggling on mana this game. 3 cards in hand. Thinking I need to be putting more counter magic in this deck, to be honest. Alright, how much mana do they have held up there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, so yeah, could still be Rift. We'll scry one with the Thassa, try and get ourselves closer to counter magic. Plateau, we'll get rid of that. Draw more cards, so we're actually seeing 4 cards on top of our library with Sylvan Library. And the Thassa, yeah, just a land, so we'll take the 8 life here because we can gain some life from Killian. Let's see how close we can be to getting rid of the 5 colour player. Noteworthy that the boast ability is online now. No means of us drawing a card, unfortunately. Okay, landing that damage, so I'm guessing they don't have anything with those 3 cards in hand. We're at 18 commander and 3 damage, or 3 life left. So going to activate the tutor. And I think it's best if we just get Hoffrey into play at this point, to be honest. Or maybe we can just make it Gerard. Yeah, it doesn't matter, let's go for Gerard. Doesn't matter if it's just stuck on top of our library. Now this is where it's noteworthy. If I played the Chromatic Lantern last turn, we'd have an extra mana, and I could have gone Piru into Gerard there. Yeah, and if I'd actually worked out combat, we could have had rid of a player with Day of Destiny as well. Oh well, play out the Chromatic Lantern now then. And I think I'm just going to... yeah, don't think anything else in our hand matters. So we'll just go for passing the turn at that. Yeah, played that turn. That was a bit of a goofy turn. Could have done much better there. If I put a 3 CMC spell on top, not sure what I would have gone for, but we could have cascaded into it from the Day of Destiny. Anyway, we're making the Goblin player pull his weight a little bit here at least. Should swing in the Goblin tokens over here and then Krenko at us, really. So finally, seeing that Blackblade Reforged going on to the Krenko, we'll let them get all the Goblins into play, because I assume that at least 3 of them should be going in over here. Props to the 5 colour player. If they can't survive this, then they're playing it out anyway, which is very admirable. Krenko jumps up to a 10-11. Taking his sweet time deciding here for some reason. I don't know if there's... sometimes players on Magic Online will privately message each other outside of the general chat here. There's no one saying anything here. It's either that or he's trying to work out some kind of maths. He's got 6 cards in hand and 3 mana held up, so not entirely sure what he could have. So yeah, the Krenko swings in at us as it probably should. They should overextend with the tokens here. They should swing in more than 3, because they could have removal here. Although if they have removal, I assume they'd use it on our stuff. So swinging in 3 goblins exactly over to this player. And we have to let them attack, which unfortunately means that we have to let them... we could do this now so that they get 1 less goblin, but I don't think it matters. Yeah, we'll let them get the plus counter and the goblins here. So that is 11 goblins. This jumps up to an 11-11. We're going to be dealt 18 damage here. Wait and see if the 5-colour player does anything. He doesn't. He's just passing through the blocking step. So we go Deadly Rollick without paying the mana cost, exiling the Krenko out of the way. So we only take 7 here, assuming that this lands. So admirably, the 5-colour player just decides to take it, plays through the game regardless of the fact that he was going to lose that one for the last few turns there. Yeah, that was a really goofy turn last turn. Our opponent goes wide on us here because we can't sacrifice the Piru. So now I don't know if Gerard actually helps us. Yeah, Gerard I'm actually going to bottom, and I'm going to try and get into something else that's of some relevance here. A fetch land is one thing. Yeah, this is where it's relevant that I was saying before about one turn can make all the difference, and I didn't get down the Chromatic Lantern for the extra mana, which means this turn we're not sacrificing a Piru and wiping out all these Goblin tokens. Alright, but a Demonic Tutor can help us, that's excellent. So I will leave the removal in hand. We can put the Windswept Heath on top, that doesn't matter. Drop the Badlands. Play Demonic Tutor. They might have Teferi's Protection or something like that held up, but we'll go for the Toxic Deluge anyway. Just putting 1 life into that. And our opponent has 6 cards in hand. We'll see if they survive this, because it's probably their game if they've got a means of protecting the board. They do not. So then we'll get down the Day of Destiny. That will cascade us into something else, which will buff our army. Okay, Generous Gift. Giving themselves a blocker, blowing up one of their lands. I think I'd just blow up the Jodah there. Alright, well, they get a blocker in the way. Alright, yeah, and then just deciding to scoop, so they were just messing around there. What were we going to get into, do we know? That would have been a Rograk, Son of Rogar. And then I think it would have been Swords to Plowshares, seeing our opponent's hand there. Swords to Plowshares on this, and then I'm not sure. I don't think we still would have had enough there. I haven't totted it up. Maybe we would, maybe not. If it's the case that we wouldn't have had enough, I probably would have, actually counted if we were up to 40 damage before going for the Swords to Plowshares, because if we don't have enough, it would have just been unblockable onto Jodah from the Thassa and dealt a bunch of commander damage, ready for commander damage again next turn. That does mean that we're not holding up the Swords to Plowshares, but hopefully we would have been able to win regardless. We can see our opponent's hand now, so no need for hindsight. Reveal our hand to them. Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed this visit to Jodah the Unifier. This is the first game I played with this deck, and yeah, it's a really fun one. Huge thank you to the patrons for supporting the channel so consistently. If you want to become a supporter yourself and get your name in the credits, then be sure to consider donating on Patreon via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.